New Vegas is supposedly a game that can be pacifisted. It can be completed from start to finish without anyone ever dying by the player's hand. I've pacifisted just about every part of the game, the final boss, the meeting of the factions, hunting Benny, etc. But I haven't ever done it all in one run. But I know it's possible, which is why I haven't done it. A thing that I'm not sure of, however, are the expansions. I can't see how you can do any of them without solving parts of them, or pretty much most of them, without ever resorting to violence. So when the Outer Worlds came out and I completed that game as a pacifist in Supernova and started this whole series, I thought to myself, oh well, we'll see if you can keep up that design philosophy when the expansions release. Which are often made by much smaller teams and, sometimes that fucking shows. And here we are now, the first real good game design challenge for the Outer Worlds. Can you beat Peril on Gorgon as a pacifist on Supernova? We start the DLC by reloading a save before taking on the final mission, or in my case, complete the entire game on a different platform to get that sweet Supernova achievement again. Then we reload an earlier save. From there we travel anywhere in the star system, and we are then intercepted by a courier who delivers a package to our ship. The package contains a severed hand and a data disk. The data disk reveals that our good friend Lucky is dead and that he was doing a juicy job just before he died. Oh, by the way, he's not our friend, he's Alex Hawthorne's friend. Don't tell Ada! And we gotta go finish that job. On Gorgon, where I presume there's Peril. On Gorgon we go to a mini asteroid that's not actually Gorgon, but close to Gorgon, and we meet up with Lucky's employer, Minnie Ambrose. And she contracts us to go find out what happened to her mother, who was a Spacer's Choice researcher on Gorgon, and by extension we will figure out what happened to Lucky. We go to Gorgon, which is an absolute shit show, and here we found out at the local inn that the place is now just a place where people scavenge and survive marauder attacks. Following in Lucky's footsteps, we start making our way to a facility, and that's pretty easy. Our leading lady protag is level 20 by this point in the game, and I've picked up a few perks that let her sprint super fast and also keep moving at normal speed while in time dilation for 5 seconds. So dodging marauder attacks is pretty easy. Inside the facility it's a bit of a different story. There are 3 floors and it took me a single death to figure out a tactic. And that tactic was to take my time when to run, and then I did that, fucked it up, sprint to a place where the AI couldn't follow, then tried again and managed to make my way to the top floor and use the terminal. Using the terminal, we learned that the marauders are actually the side effect of an experiment Spacer's Choice was working on Gorgon. They were trying to make a drug that didn't require workers to sleep, and while it succeeded, those workers unfortunately also became batshit insane and murderous, and oh yeah, the thing that does that is actually in the air and is presumably affecting us right now. Delicious. Aside from learning of our potential impending doom, we learn that Ambrose Senior's corpse and the notes detailing what befell her is supposedly in some lab, but we can't get access to that lab because of a logout thing. But we did, however, get access to some info that would put us in contact with someone who knows how to get the lockdown thing fixed, so we head to Byzantium to ask that person about that. On Byzantium we meet up with the Twat, steal a fucking dog statue for him, which is pretty easy because hacking a door created a shortcut and that let us avoid the death robots protecting the thing. And as we handed over the statue and the guy's fucking eye that he left on Gorgon, he tells us that one of Project Gorgon's leads is holed up on an abandoned deck on the Groundbreaker. On the abandoned deck of the Groundbreaker there are a fuck ton of mercs, but our lady protag friend has a silver tongue and convinces all of them to leave, and then they do that. However, further inside there are death robots blocking our way to the scientists, so we ran around and panicked while they chased us, before finding the correct door, then panicked some more and ran around while still being chased, before finally arriving at the researcher. The researcher tells us to go back to Gorgon and then go to another facility so we can go to another facility. So we do that. It's super easy, and I just ran to the facility, ran through the facility, used a code I threatened the researchers to get to take a shortcut and entered the executive wing. Oh yeah, and by the way, there's this menacing hacker man who shows up throughout this thing and tells us to stop searching for answers or else he will kill the crew of our ship and take it. But the joke's on him. I already got everyone but the fucking Roomba killed in the main game. And oh yeah, I hacked one of his messages and found out that he is actually an executive at Spacer's Choice, and there are messages that gives you an overview of who the executives are, so at the moment it's a pretty short list of suspects. And I'm sure that some exec will show up at some point and be helpful, and that will be our guy. Anyways, at the facility we turn off some security thing that allows us to go to the gas giant Olympus, which is pretty neat because it's one of the planets that's blocked off in the main game, and its inclusion as a location in this expansion confirms that the other locations that are also locked will be visitable at some point, and that I am not in fact just too stupid to figure out how to get to them. Yes. On our way to Olympus, a ship attempts to forcefully board us, but instead of fighting them, I had Ada fly swap the ship and dislodge it while they were stuck in the airlock. On the station, we learn that everyone has been shot by murderous robots, because of course they have. And then we sneak our way past them, get stuck for a bit on some dodgy level design, and then make our way to the other scientist man that we need to speak to. He of course won't help us until we go pull a lever in an even more dangerous part of the facility, because fucking RPGs. We take the facility up to the roof, dodge some robots, pull 3 levers, and then head back and talk to him again. He reveals some details. We convince him to take some drugs, give us an extra key to make going through the next facility easier, then convince him to 420 blaze it on some adreno time until his mind is wiped. We then save the receptionist, dodge 2 robots, and make our way back to Gorgon and into the facility where the remains and notes of Dr. Ambrose supposedly are. This of course means dodging more robots, which is pretty easy with the TTD movement perks and level design, which is quite a bit more generous and accounting for stealth than the main game is. Inside the final lab on Gorgon, we ran into Pam, a robot and efficiency coach. She kills people to motivate the other workers. I tried to get Pam to help me, but I accidentally killed her, so I had to go reload, and then on my next go, I found her override code and used that on her to activate her defenses, even though she's under the recommended battery level to do so. And then I just strolled into the facility behind her and watched her, mind you, not me, gun down dozens of marauders, giving me the opportunity to easily slip into the next part of the facility. From there, it was more easy stealthing for a few floors until I made it to Dr. Ambrose's office and got her journal, which then triggered a lockdown sequence that did nothing. Back on this ship, we learn that Dr. Ambrose is the mysterious villain that has been slightly annoying us, and we then get the ultimatum. Side with her and bury the adreno time research for good, so the marauder problem doesn't get worse, or side with Minnie and possibly save the colony. Except that we know from the ending of the game that we can save the colony anyways without the adreno time research, and possibly also avoid, making more marauders. So, while Dr. Ambrose is annoying, she is right, and we then assault Minnie's mansion. It's protected by robots, and robots are stupid, so getting past them, disabling some turrets and confronting Minnie wasn't much of an issue. Minnie does however convince us that there is a compromise to be made, and instead of just running over and flipping the switch that wins the quest, I, like the simp I am, decided to assault Dr. Ambrose's facility as well. It was much the same story. Run and hide using plenty of TTD and confront her, then convince her to come over to Minnie's for tea. The quest then ends with the 2 of them laying a plan for what to do with the adreno time researched. And I proved that you can indeed beat the Peril on Gorgon Supernova Pacifist Challenge. This was pretty fun. Peril on Gorgon is an odd DLC. It's more of the same, and that's not really a bad thing. It's just that it's not what I was expecting. It's very close thematically to the Outer Worlds proper, and could just as well have been a very long side quest, or hell, even the main quest in itself, I feel like, in a much shorter game. Like with the previous challenge, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it more or less if I used guns. Guns are sort of what the game is about, I feel like, but I think they might also have made the experience worse, because it wouldn't have forced me to think somewhat creatively and apply myself and stick with stealth. Which is a fun way to play, because the adreno time speeds it up compared to a normal game where you have to sit behind boxes and wait for much longer durations of time. Yeah, so I'm not necessarily gonna recommend the DLC. If you like the main game and you would like to see more, but not see more that's more that's different, like with Fallout New Vegas's expansions, then yeah, go play Peril on Gorgon. But honestly, I would probably wait until it's on sale, because it doesn't feel like it's worth the $20 or $30 that I paid for it. It's a long side quest, but it doesn't have any colorful environments or anything like that. It has a little bit of an asteroid, and then it has Gorgon proper, which just looks like any other part of the main game, and I couldn't really recognize that any of the Marauders looked any kind of new, or that any of the enemies were any kind of new. The Raptidons just looked like normal Raptidons, the Marauders just looked like normal Marauders, and the robots, they looked like normal robots. But yeah, the main game proper, absolutely go play that. Until next time, bye bye.